Beautiful friends, Maya Acosta here with another Instagram Live. I'm your host for the Healthy Lifestyle Solutions podcast, and today I have another guest. Now, this individual is also going to be part of the Peaceful Planet Foundation's annual retreat. This is the 5th year that they do this retreat in Houston. October 7th. We're going to talk about her participation in the retreat. And then I'm going to put links after I post this. So, please check it out. Again, it's the Peaceful Planet Foundation's annual retreat that they're doing this year. And so today I'm going to have Jacinta, aka Kalian Darshan. That is her spiritual given name. And let me introduce her before I bring her on. So Jacinta celebrates and supports the conscious awakening of humanity as a yoga teacher, mantra and meditation guide, ordained minister, sound and energy practitioner, and choosing a plant-based diet. Oh my gosh, you're speaking my language. Jacinta teaches mindfulness practices in Houston schools for Peaceful Planet Foundation, has contributed to their online video series, and proudly serves on its board. Now, if you remember, I did have doctors Munish and Bandana Chawla speak specifically about how she does these works in the school system. Gifted the spiritual name Kalian Darshan, she regularly teaches Kundalini Yoga and the Meridian Yoga technique, leads kirtan and mantra meditation events, and bi-monthly guides new and full moon meditations. Jacinta holds a bachelor's degree in anatomy, physiology, and psychology, a bachelor of metaphysics, and has studied sound healing practices with Jonathan Goldman, Eileen McCusick, and Krishna Das. And her website is www.kaliandarshan.com. And I'm actually going to put her website right here while I have a chance. Let's go ahead and invite Jacinta to join us live.
How are you, Mai? What a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on your program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you heard my introduction today. We're going to speak about a couple of things. First of all, I want people to know a little bit more about the Peaceful Planet Foundation, the annual retreat. You're very involved as a board member and in working with their initiatives in the school system. So I'd love for you to talk about that, and then your participation at the actual retreat doing a Kundalini Yoga.
Yeah.
Tell us about your given name and how all of that got started.
Kalian Darshan, well, that was my given spiritual name when I was a student studying Kundalini Yoga. And I really resonated with it. You know, Kalian is actually an Indian rag, the name of an Indian rag, which is a very specific rhythm that is often played at the beginning of ceremony. And I often find myself in that situation as a musician that chants mantra and leads kirtans, which is a lovely collection of mantras that we sing from our hearts and really find those beautiful, loving feelings, those blissful states chanting together. That definitely resonated with me. And darshan is a beautiful expression of, what we're all seeking is that, that real lovely essence within, that, the divine that is within all of us, and really reflecting that out so that we can all find that within ourselves. Yeah, it's a lovely name. But Jacinta is my given name, so I answer to either.
Yeah. Okay, I'm so glad that you corrected me on the pronunciation, because it's such a beautiful name. So I'm going to try it again. It's Kalian.
Yes, when I hear people say it like Dr. Manish and Dr. Bandana, Kalian, they say it with such a nice ring. Yes, it's beautiful.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Okay, so now tell us more about, let's start about the retreat, and then more about what is Kundalini Yoga. And I know you have so many other offerings.
The Peaceful Planet Foundation, my gosh, it's such a beautiful, beautiful foundation, organization with, it's come so much from that desire from Dr. Manish and Dr. Bandana to really bring peace to the planet through mindfulness, mindful living, mindful eating, mindful movement, mindful listening, mindful awareness. And, there are studies now that really show that in order to find true happiness and to even find true productivity, the key is mindfulness, being present in the moment, bringing all of your attention to whatever it is you're doing, whether you're driving your car or brushing your teeth or practicing a breath or practicing a meditation. And, you know, the program that we do in schools is so needed these days. You know, children are in a difficult period of time. There is so much change occurring on our planet right now. Their parents are often so busy, and so to have some training on how they can come back and find their center, how they can even, you know, inform their parents on things that they can eat that are really tasty but so healthy and plant-based and really simple to prepare. We bring them mindful movement, mindful awareness, mindful breath. I take some sound instruments into the classroom, and they close their eyes and they listen and you know, they use all of their senses. We do some movement, and it's very relaxing for them, very calming for them, and particularly, you know, coming through COVID now, it's really needed. And I know if there's any teachers listening or watching, they'll really speak to that. Yeah, it was a very difficult time for everyone, especially the little ones. For sure. The Peaceful Planet has so many programs. Every time they offer this, it's just filled with people who really bring a lot of cutting edge information, whether it be to all manners of lifestyle, whether it be to how you want to physically move your body, to the diet that you're eating, and information about, you know, the stuff that's really happening now, so that we can really contextualize all of this and recognize the true benefits of what we're doing, not only for ourselves and our local, you know, our families, our friends, our communities, but the planet at large. You know, every little thing that we can do, you know, we're all connected. It impacts all of us. So yeah, it's a very beautiful endeavor, and it's always packed to the rafters. So if you haven't got your ticket, it's only 2 weeks away. Definitely get a ticket for that Peaceful Planet Foundation retreat. But my offering this year will be Kundalini Yoga and meditation, and this is a practice that I dearly love. You know, before I did yoga, I was a student of metaphysics and chanting and toning and sound healing. But before that, I spent 2.5 decades as a professional musician, touring, producing, singer, songwriting, and it was very chaotic and it wasn't healthy. But there was always a part of me that was, you always had that kind of sense of there was more, and so sort of got onto that path very, you know, a lot more seriously in 2009. But then Kundalini Yoga found me. A friend said, come along to a sound bath. Of course, I'm always up for a sound bath. And whilst there was a component that was a sound bath, it was a Kundalini Yoga class, and it was amazing. You know, arms in the air doing this breath of fire, and I walked out so blissed out that I left my purse. I was just on another planet. It really just so lifted my spirit. It lifted my frequency. And this is such a key in whether we're overcoming depression, whether we are wanting to just find more joy in our life. When our frequency is vibrating at a higher state, we certainly have a much more joyful life experience. But to sort of unpack Kundalini Yoga more, it's actually a yoga, you know, it's come through like all yogas, through many different sort of paths and lineages. And it landed in America, driven by the notion that it was really going to begin blossoming right now. And that's because there is so many challenges on our planet. There is such a challenge for, and there's a lot of obstacles with just trying to survive, let alone thrive, in, you know, figuring who we truly are. So this is the yoga of personal awakening, really coming back to connect with the essence of who you are. And so the practices are your traditional, you have the yoga style asanas, but we use them more so moving them. It's a moving asana often in rhythm with the breath. And so what we're doing is you're coming home to your natural rhythm. When you come back to your natural rhythm, start flowing as you flow, life then finds more harmony. And there are plenty of examples of people that have come in with high blood pressure, really strung out, and over a relatively short period of time, they've really come into their own, calm, centered, grounded, at peace. inspired by life again, feeling enthusiastic, feeling more in connection with themselves. So we practice moving asanas. We do a lot of breath. And I mean, gosh, yoga and breathwork, there's just so much data out there that we know for sure. Breath is absolutely imperative when we're looking to find peace, when we're looking to find calm. So much can be going on in our outer world, but when we've practiced how to come back to that center, we can really deal and cope and restore that state so much more quickly. We don't get those dreadful panic attacks and anxiety attacks, which I have experienced in the past, where it's impossible to make a good decision. You know, everything's going a million miles an hour. You feel like everything is a train wreck. So with practices where very specific practices that are so simple, where you can bring harmony back into your nervous system, where you can regulate your nervous system. Kundalini Yoga has like all of these recipes for different practices of asanas, and then different practices of breath, breath holds and segmented breaths and all kinds of fun. It's actually quite fun, and they have a very specific outcome. So it's also a practice that really allows the strengthening of the nervous system. So this allows us to build resilience, which is so important these days. And it balances the hormonal system and the nervous system. So it brings your body and your mind and your emotions into balance. It's a really heart opening practice, getting into that beautiful space of heart coherence. When we're in coherence, everything in our body comes back to flow. You're going to build strength, you're going to build your flexibility. Every class is different. So I teach each morning at 8 a.m. for an hour online, Monday to Friday, when I'm here in the States, in Houston. And then when I'm in Australia, it becomes a PM class when you're over here. But at Peaceful Planet Foundation Retreat, I'll be offering a Kundalini Yoga and meditation breath experience. So come along, come and get a taste of it. It's really quite profound. Yeah.
Yes, I wish I could go. I'll be at the main stage, I think, as an
Okay.
attendee. So I wish I could join the sessions, but I will tell you that I've tried to attend as much as, because I'm in Dallas. So
Mm-hmm.
when I learned about Dr. Munish, or Dr. M and Dr. B, Dr. Munish and
NB.
Banamatala,
Yeah.
yes, I started going there, and it's beautiful. On my podcast, people often hear me talk about the benefits of lifestyle medicine, and yet all these other wisdoms have been in place for so long,
Right.
and the rest of the, I started learning about lifestyle medicine about 7 years ago. But before that, I had an interest in kirtan chanting. I do know who Jonathan Goldman. Oh, yes, of course. Like when I started
Yes.
learning about mantras, I was
Yes.
familiar with his work. I lived in San Diego. And
Lovely.
so
Beautiful, beautiful
that
place.
environment really fostered a lot of these interests when it came to meditation and doing inner work. And then I relocated to Dallas about 10 years ago and felt like, oh, where's my community? Where do I get
Yeah.
started? Now, the world has changed a lot. There are more and more people that have these spiritual practices in place. I like that it's becoming more common, more mainstream for people to understand the power of yoga and breath work, to ground themselves, as you've been talking about, to build resiliency. It sounds like what you're doing is something that I would be drawn to. Tell us about the online courses or classes that are available in case people are not able to attend the Houston retreat.
Sure. Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. I teach Kundalini Yoga. We begin with a Kriya set, so that's going to be more physical. And then everyone gets to lie down, enjoy a lovely relaxation to integrate with the gong, nice gong bath relaxation period. And then we have a meditation. And each class is different. As I was talking about, it's so much about finding and restoring your own unique rhythm. It's all about awakening you. I inform those classes in which careers I'm teaching based on the larger rhythms that are out there, and that's the movement of the planets and the sun and the moon, and how, we're all in receiving, we're receiving those energies as well. And so it's really nice to sort of bring that into the rhythm of the classes that we teach. So, there's going to be a little difference between what we're doing in the spring, what we're doing in the autumn, what we're doing, in the summer, the fall. We've got the equinox coming up this week. So this is, a period of time where we really want to find balance. Any practices that really help you restore balance to the hemispheres of your brain, balance to, whether you're feeling like you're really asserting yourself, or whether you're just, more masculine and yang, or whether you're feeling more dreamy and creative, the more yin, bringing those into balance so they can co-create together. There's so many polarities that can sort of come out of whack, and this is a beautiful period to really work with those energies that are coming into the planet now as we approach the equinox, to set intentions for restoring the balance within ourselves. Yeah. I was just going to say, Sundays I do an in-person class, so from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. It's a bit of a longer class, and that takes place in Bel Air here in Houston, Texas. So that's an opportunity. That's one also streams online, so if you can't make that one, you can join our Zoom. Yeah, it's beautiful too, because you meet so many people in the community. Sometimes you can feel isolated if you're beginning a new practice, or you just decide, okay, this is it. I'm really going to start taking care of myself because I'm just living so stressed out. I'm having anxiety attacks. I know that I'm starting to exhibit symptoms that ultimately are going to lead me into some kind of chronic health situation. And but you can feel quite isolated, but coming to a retreat like this, you meet a lot of people who have taken that step, who are on that path. And the community is growing, it's building, it's loving, it's embracing, it's warm and kind, and all are welcome.
Yes.
It's lovely.
We mentioned that Doctors Chawla, who are the founders of the Peaceful Planet Foundation, they're trained in lifestyle medicine through the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And many times, you often hear me talk about that on my podcast, because I draw from the membership there at ACLM and bring them on my show to talk about disease in general, preventing and halting diseases, if possible, with, the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And I'll go over them real quick to kind of showcase or highlight how the work that you're doing in Houston is very similar to what the doctors are being trained to do. And I say doctors, but it's really a lot of specialists that work with patients, people in healthcare, dietitians, nurse practitioners, you name it. Many people are now understanding the power of a whole food, plant-based diet. That's one of the pillars of lifestyle medicine. There's also the physical activity, natural movement in our environment, just moving our body, especially as we age. Number 3 is managing our stress. And that can include all the things that we're talking about today, which is, using yoga, breath work, mindfulness, meditation, just all of it. So the other one is, building healthy relationships, finding your tribe, just like you learned in the Blue Zones, coming together with like-minded people that could also honor those things that you're interested in having. And then getting restorative sleep, which spending time in nature can contribute to that, but also doing these practices that you're talking about right now, Jacinta. And number 6, which I do talk about now more often, is just moving away from those other substances that can take away from all of it, our sleep, our being mindful, which I bring on sobriety coaches now on my show for people that are interested in changing their relationship with alcohol. So based on those 6 pillars that I often touch on, Jacinta, please tell us what Peaceful Planet Foundation is doing, and then what you, as a yoga instructor and spiritual teacher, what you do also to meet some of those pillars.
Yes. The Peaceful Planet Foundation with the retreat, they have such a beautiful community of people that they bring in that address all of those pillars that you mentioned, and of course they are coming in from their own perspective. We have beautiful cooking demonstrations, really practical lessons, workshops, sessions that you can walk away with and bring into your life right away. So for myself, yes, with the yoga, the mindfulness, the breath work, even, with the chanting and doing kirtan, which we have an event coming up later, well, actually this week, and then in October, chanting is like this beautiful internal massage, humming with your own voice, creating vibration within your body is so profoundly relaxing, so soothing, so de-stressing. And it's proven now that it actually creates production of nitric oxide, which is a really, really powerful molecule that reduces inflammation. And we know inflammation is so much behind a lot of disease states. But it's a vasodilator, so it relaxes all of those muscles in the blood system. So you have more blood movement in the body. The blood pressure is reduced. Just really, really simple ways that just by humming to yourself, there really something very true about just sing that song when you're doing whatever, hum a little tune, feel it vibrating in your body. And that really allows, number one, or what I just mentioned with the nitric oxide, but also, if you take your mind out of it and just hum, you let your body speak. And our body is our subconscious mind. This is where we hold, past wounds and traumas. This is where we hold difficult thoughts and the worries, and it's where we hold, emotions that are challenging. And so when we allow our body just to groan and moan and speak, like when you first wake up in the morning, just moving the body and letting it make its own sound, it's not about how it sounds, it's how it feels. And by doing that, we bring these wonderful healing vibrations in that really, it's a very, very powerful practice in and of itself, just using your voice box, vibrating the body, and then touch, all the somatic practices. You're touching the body, really feeling your own touch and listening with your ears, tuning in. What's the message? What is my body teaching me? It has in and of itself its own wisdom. And when we quiet our mind and we're willing to just sit with ourselves and be intimate with ourselves, just touching our own bodies, where it may be finding discomfort, but everywhere. And recreating that relationship that most of us don't even consider. In fact, it's almost the case when something hurts, we just ignore it, don't want to know about it, which is the last thing we really want to be doing. We want to be talking to the body and then listening to the body. A lot of people might say that is wacky, but no, it's not. It's powerful. It's a beautiful way to get in touch with all of that stuff that's 95% of what's going on within us is subconscious. And so the more efforts that we make, whether it be yoga, and yoga is really, we do the asanas in order to move the body and get all those wonderful benefits, get the energy flowing, but it's really then to settle us in so we can quieten the mind. We can drop into our heart. We can tune into what is really going on beneath the surface, which in our busy, busy lifestyle, we're only just dealing with that little ice tip, that's above the surface, and so much information is below that we can dive into if we're willing just to find those few minutes each day to close our eyes, find a comfortable place, turn within, listen to the breath, use our hands, listen to our body, perhaps engage in a breath practice. And it's when we're living in a culture where we're so seeking the next dopamine hit, it can be a little challenging to begin with. That's another reason I love Kundalini Yoga, is we have these little mantras that can engage your mind. So you've got something to be using your mind with. It's actually very healthy for your, for your mind. And then a breath. So it's a great way to really commence a meditation practice, because you've got your fingers in a position. You might have your hands in a position. You might even be doing a movement. You might be chanting a mantra. You might be focusing your eyes. So you've got these things that are deliberate, because they're directing energy in your body in a very specific way, but they help engage your mind. So it's easier to hold the focus with those little practices, rather than the mind jumping to the past or jumping to the future, when you're trying to bring it into that moment of power, that moment of now. Yeah, it's so important. Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you're going into how we basically store a lot of this in the body. Earlier you mentioned, panic. This can have help if you suffer with panic attacks and anxiety, which we saw an incredible amount of, mental health issues that people were having during the pandemic, and then we came out of it still kind of feeling a little bit bothered and confused, maybe angry for the time that was lost, upset about things that didn't happen that we wish had happened or didn't, or the opposite. So it was, for many years, I've done the whole mental work, right, with the therapist and trying to solve issues at the mind level through talk therapy. And we not necessarily, I don't discourage that. I mean, I have a life coach that I work with, and I do talk about some of the things that I'm struggling with, that are part of my journey. However, I started to understand the importance of doing body work, and I read the body keeps us. The body keeps a score, or the body keeps the score.
That's right, yeah, because
I
our
learned
issues
about
are in our tissues, right?
Yes. I
Yeah.
learned about the vagus nerve. I learned that most of the work that we need to do happens, it's in the body. Like you're saying,
Right, not up
the
here.
body, the trauma stays in the body. So you've just been talking about it. This is why these practices are so useful, especially for those of us. I did suffer a lot of trauma when I was younger, so I've had to really work at moving out of here and really being more present. So yes, tell us a little bit more about that. You've already
Yes,
been talking about it, but just the
yeah,
importance of breath work for those of
yeah,
us who probably have never learned about it, like
yeah.
breath work and body work.
Well, the breath, most of us are not breathing correctly, and most of, in the lungs, a lot of the parasympathetic nerves that trigger the relaxation response, the vagus nerve, are lower in the lungs. So just simply by breathing so high in the chest, and you know, we're not getting the stimulation of those receptors that activate the relaxation response. There are certain ways that we can breathe, even just simply by extending the breath out. So finding a few moments, minutes, just to close your eyes and put a song on. How many beats does it take for me to breathe in? And then when you exhale, breathe out for more beats. Make it playful. It doesn't have to be crazy, like, just, okay, I'm breathing in for 8 beats, I'm going to breathe out for 12. So when we master our breath, our mind follows our breath. So immediately when we begin engaging a breath practice, our mind's like, okay, what's going on? I'm going to follow on here. And um, another beautiful breath practice that's really quite simple is an alternate nostril breath, breathing in left, exhaling right nostril, breathing in right nostril, exhaling left. So it's basically you exhale left, exhale right, inhale right, and you just keep moving backwards and forwards, and that will shift your mind and your if you're stressed, that will definitely bring in relaxation. And then the breath that we practiced this morning in class, a beautiful breath where you're breathing in 4 segmented breaths. So your breath is full, you've filled your lungs with and a long exhale out. And then you can bring a vision to it, create a lovely imagination of something that you want to be, do, or create. And with every breath, you're bringing it closer, you're adding a little NLP. And then as you exhale, you're seeing that image, feeling the sensation of that dream, that goal, that vision coming into life. And then we add to that, moving the fingers as we do those 4 breaths, as we mentally chant sa, ta, na, ma. And as you're pressing your thumbs to each finger, you're making connections with different aspects of your brain on each side. So you're bringing in whole brain activity. You're controlling your breath. You've got a nice mantra going on. You've got a beautiful visualization. It could be as simple as like, I'm smelling the sweet smell of roses, and then you can let the breath out with an open mouth exhale, just using it as a beautiful appreciation, gratitude practice. So, there's just so many wonderful breaths, and you can find the one that you really enjoy doing. And then the other component, the somatic component, is just so important. The psoas muscle, for example, they realized not too long ago that this is where we store so much PTSD trauma memory. Because what happens in a trauma response is you're either going to curl up into a ball using the psoas muscle, the big muscle that runs, behind the hip from the spine down to the femurs through the pelvis, or you're going to get up and you're going to run as fast as you can, also activating those big muscles. And so then if we don't allow ourselves to process the trauma, those psoas muscles are holding those memories. You'll see little animals after they've, escaped the lion that was, trying to catch them, they'll shake and they'll tremble, they'll shake it out. You see dogs do it all the time, they'll shake things off. And quite often humans like, okay, that's happened, moving forward, I'm not going to process that because it's not now, it was then. And so we have it still living in us. So hip opening exercises are so powerful for allowing lots of energy, setting an intention to really bring new life force energy into the psoas muscle, allowing those memories to be dissolved, to be released, to be processed. And it can be challenging sometimes when we're sitting back and remembering a trauma. And it very well could come back into the memory more real than what it was in the moment as it's coming through and moving out of the body-mind.
Wow.
But, it's better out than in, right?
Yes.
And
it sort of reminds me of why sometimes you'll see it even in the movies when someone's doing yoga with a friend or something, and then emotions start to come up, and you're like re-experiencing, or maybe the emotion is coming through that pain, the reminder, and
yes.
they kind of make fun of it in the movies, right? Like a playful thing, but it's real.
In other words. Real. And what I find too, there's a lot of tears in Kundalini Yoga classes, but often people will say, I don't even know why I was crying. So oftentimes there's a release happening, but the emotion that is coming through, they're not reliving the circumstance, they're just crying. There's something and they can't even tell you what it is. But just with the movements and the breath and the little mantra that we're chanting in our minds, brings about profound healing. And because we've always got a box of tissues or two handy, because it's just spontaneous and it's beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful to know that on the other side of that class, you're not carrying something inside of you that you were before you began that class. So creating more space for newness. And of course, when we release the trauma, all the energy, the life force that was financing that limiting belief, that state of mind, that thing that's in the body, that energy is in return to us. It's no longer holding on to whatever it was that was, creating that distortion.
Yeah. Also, Carlian, what I like about these practices and how available they can be for anyone from any background, any kind of mobility issues, also if they have those sort of issues, I like that it's available for people even if they're undergoing, chemotherapy, if they're living with cancer, if they have issues, especially with hypertension, right, type 2 diabetes. I think that sometimes, this is a psychological perspective that I think I have, but I'm not saying that it's necessarily true, that when our body starts to break down, we may hold some anger or resentment against our body, especially when we have mobility issues. We can't get around as much because of a procedure we had, an accident we might have had, or just the aging process. I think that what you're offering is a reminder to be gentle with ourselves. We don't have to be in optimal health to do these techniques.
Absolutely. Exactly. It's not about doing anything perfect. It's just about moving the body in that particular direction or way with the breath to how it works for you in that moment. Yeah, it's definitely not about being great or perfect or anything like that, because I'm far from that.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's bringing, it's setting an intention. And for folks that are, undergoing some treatment, be it with cancer or overcoming surgery, our minds are so powerful. Setting an intention before literally doing anything. I'm washing the dishes. Well, I'm setting an intention every dish that I wash. I am purifying my whatever it might be. You know, we can live so intentionally. That is a game changer. And then with doing a yoga practice, a breath mindfulness meditation practice, just bringing the mind to that part of the body and seeing the rest of the body, really embracing it, really supporting that healing. And then seeing yourself whole, seeing yourself free of the anxiety that's taking the journey with you, seeing yourself not how you were in the past, but something even brighter, more beautiful in the future, with the wisdom that you're bringing forward through whatever that process is that you're, you know, the challenge that you're working with at the time. You know, everything can bring a gift, and suffering is a dreadful, dreadful, dreadful thing. Yeah, but we can do it in a way that it has more meaning, that we really get some bang for a buck out of what's going on, because there is a wisdom, there is a process. I truly do believe and have faith in the process of life.
Absolutely.
That nothing comes to us without a gift. There is always some bigger purview that we can look in. And you know, people, so many times you hear them, they've had this extremely challenging life experience, and they say on the other side, wow, I wouldn't trade it because of who I am today and the gifts that it gave to me. It can be really hard to see, but this is where you got to find your community. You got to find a practice that really feels good for you, and move through that with courage, loving the body, supporting the body, knowing that it has tremendous power for healing. I have a mantra: everything can heal. And this is so wonderful to see lifestyle medicine, you know, that what the Dr. Chawlas are offering. Just on a personal note for myself, around 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. Now, Graves' disease is something that you're going to have forever, and the only cure is to drink a radioactive cocktail that completely ablates. It contains radioactive iodine, so the thyroid gland absorbs that, and you wake up the next morning and you no longer have a thyroid. And the way that landed on my ears, it's like, well, if I have a shoe that's too small, I'm not going to chop off my big toe, right? And so it took me 3 years, but I finally found, you know, my personal cure through muscle testing. And as it turned out, I had parasites in my large bowel. And when they were eliminated with a natural, interesting tonic, I was completely fine. I've never looked back. So, you know, I think we've got to really examine, explore, really look at the underlying things. It was not my thyroid gland that was having the problem. I had these parasites that had moved into my body, and then my thyroid gland was confusing, my immune system was confusing my thyroid gland with the parasites. So as it was attacking my thyroid gland, it was making my thyroid gland secrete like crazy. So it was not a pleasant time, but found the solution. So we've got to be investigative and curious, and know that, you know, there's often way more ways to heal our bodies other than some of the conventional treatments out there that can really shift us in not such a good way in the longer term. Yeah, definitely a lifestyle medicine advocate for sure. Support the body, because more often than not, it can heal you. All kinds of things, especially when you can get to the underlying perhaps thought form that's been just blipping away for the last 30 years, giving the body this belief about itself. And then if you can, you know, find that and then heal that, it's incredible. There are quite a lot of stories out there now about people who have even like turned around, 4th stage cancer, come completely back into health when they're able to really get underneath to the root cause, something that may have been, you know, way back in their childhood, or dare I say, even in a past life, even in the ancestral lineage. You know, it's all energy, and we're all connected, you know, through this stream of our infinite eternal lives.
Even a reminder that even if we are sick, if we have a condition that we're managing and perhaps haven't not been able to reverse, that we're not broken, this
No.
body will break down someday anyway, right? We will
Yes.
leave this body, but our spirit lives on. And that's the part that I feel like nutrition brought me back to, because I was very much into the holistic aspect of things, taking a more natural approach. I am familiar with muscle testing. So just asking what is right for you. And so many other things. And while I was not fully vegan, plant-based in my earlier life, I did stop eating red meat and pork in college. And then it wasn't, Kalian, until I gave up all animal products that I was brought back to the spiritual part of who I am. It's amazing that connection, that I cleaned up my diet, and then everything else just started coming back. Everything else, my connection to planet, my love for nature, using nature as medicine, uh, and then everything else that you are about is what lifestyle medicine is trying to bring
Mm-hmm.
to a lot of specialists, to teach them, you know what, this works. Like, medicine is not just about prescribing, certain medications that people need up to a certain point, or doing procedures
Yeah,
that people may actually
sure.
need. But let's start to teach patients and the everyday people that meditation works.
Yeah,
It works
it really
to
does.
help reduce hypertension and the
Yes.
anxiety. It helps to, even with type 2 diabetes, and walking
Oh,
in
yeah.
nature can help. So it's beginning to merge these two worlds that for a long time have been separate. And I believe the older wisdom has always been there, right? It's all these
It
other.
is, but it's been so very deep. And I guess it depends where you're raised as well, in our Western culture. Of course, the way that, for me at least, you went to the doctor, and there was always a very specific protocol depending on what was going on with your life. And whatever the doctor says is what you've got to do. In just my own sense, I had an innate belief that the body was just so powerful, and we got to support the body's healing capacity foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, yeah, I'm so grateful to medicine, because they've saved me with retinal detachment. I would have been blind in my eye without it, with some accidents that I've had in my life. Yeah, I'm absolutely grateful, but it's about finding the
Yeah.
balance. And of course, preceding all of that, generating the healthy lifestyle that you need. And for everyone, it's different, I believe. Everyone's got their own body and their own mind and their own history and their own genetics. And, so I think you've got to find the path that really works for you, and be patient and be willing to try different things. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm most definitely, for myself personally, very much an advocate of plant-based diet, lifestyle, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it suits me.
So if you're just tuning in, I've been speaking with Kalian about, a couple of things. A retreat that's coming up in Houston. It's called the Peaceful Planet Foundation's annual yearly retreat. It's the 5th year. And what I love most about it, well, there's so many things. You're going to get the taste of like what Kalian has been speaking about, Kundalini Yoga, meditation, mindfulness. There's a lunch is included, which is always a very healthy, whole food, plant-based meal. There are guest speakers. Dr. Michael Clapper will be the keynote speaker. Other great thinkers will be speaking at the main stage, while you have these other breakout sessions. And all of this with only a suggested donation of $35 for the entire day. Of course, you can donate more. And tell us also about the vendors, if you know anything about that, because I saw a message that they were looking for vendors. What else can we expect? Oh, and then, of course, will lunch be outdoors like it's been in the past?
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, I really hope so. It's cooled off a little bit, so perhaps we'll be able to be outside, which is really lovely. The food is magnificent. Plant-based, oil-free as well, which is such a surprise. One of the demonstrations that I really enjoyed was cooking without oil. I'm thinking, you can't do that, because most of my meals begin with frying up the onions, or mushrooms, these things. But when you put, like, it's amazing, you just might add a little bit of water when they start to stick, and so it naturally pulls the oils out of the vegetables themselves. Like, well, that's genius, rather than cooking with oil and therefore the oil sort of caking onto the vegetables, which can then sort of block their capacity to sort of release their own natural oils. Yeah, they have fabulous vendors every year that I've attended, loads and loads of information. I mean, just be prepared to come with an open mind and just expect to learn so much, and then to actually have physical experiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just a really, really big day, really, really big day, just to fill up on cutting edge information, and great opportunities to speak with really knowledgeable people who are really right at the top of their field. If you want to bring your own questions, if you have your own concerns about your lifestyle, this is really a place to have those answered. Yeah, and again, as I mentioned too, to find your community, meet your tribe, make a new buddy. Yeah.
Well, I'm drawn to Houston because of all that all of you are doing, the leaders in Houston that are trained in all of this, that understand how to support the community with nutrition and mindfulness. Would you like to, as we're wrapping up, is there anything else that you'd like to tell our people that are watching about yourself and your offerings?
Well, I will just say one thing. As I've noticed recently, there's a bit of some negative information online about Kundalini Yoga. I think people are getting a little frightened of the term, and I just want to reassure people that in all the years that I've been teaching, never have I seen anybody have any negative psychotic breaks, outcomes at all. It's a really beautiful, gentle, lovely practice, and at least the way I teach it. And that I do include, other aspects, things that I've learned, including meridian yoga, where we can really get in touch with pathways. If we're feeling angry, if we're feeling really worried, or if we're feeling, overcome by grief, there's certainly ways that we can sort of disrupt those patterns and allowing for those excess energies to be released. But yeah, if it resonates with you, come and try it, because it's a really lovely practice that doesn't require, like I had never practiced yoga beforehand, so it's a really nice sort of entry-level practice where you don't have to feel like I'm not flexible or I'm not young or any of these things. It definitely will meet you where you're at.
Wow.
Yeah, so come and try it out at the Peaceful Planet Foundation 5th Annual Retreat. I do hope I'll see a lot of the folks that are watching this there, and I invite them to come and say hello and bring any questions that you have, any concerns. Perhaps I can even, recommend a breath or a meditation practice for you that will specifically address what you might be dealing with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This has been wonderful. I have felt so calm just by listening to your voice. And of course, I just feel like it's a wonderful day to start off, a wonderful way to start off the day with these practices. And then, like you were saying, the benefits of Kundalini Yoga is we're coming back to ourselves, right?
All coming home to your rhythm, to who you are, because you can live a whole life and not really know the truth of who you are, because it's easy to get caught up in life and all that we believe it expects of us. We lose ourselves.
We do. And this is why we value these practices. So come October 7th to Houston. I'll put the link in the chat, in the post as well, when we wrap up. And come for a day of self-care, of pampering yourself, of relaxing, listening to great content, doing the practices like the yoga and meditation, and also watching healthy food demos. Those are so much fun. Carlina will be leading one of them, and she's my favorite. I know,
I love her. I just had dinner with her on the weekend.
So I want to thank everyone that has been watching and people that will watch this recording afterwards. And Kalyan, it's been wonderful. I can't wait to give you a hug and meet you in person. That's going to be awesome.
Yes, Maya, thank you so much for having me. Just lovely to speak with you. Let's do it again sometime.
Yes. So have a wonderful day, and thank you again for joining me.
My pleasure. Sat Nam, everyone. Namaste. Peace out.
Bye-bye.
Bye, love.